Hello my friends and family, kindly sit comfortably and listen to this story. The story title, The Millionaire's Disguise, The Desire for True Love. Alex stood by the window of his penthouse, gazing out over the sprawling city below. The night had fallen, and the skyline sparkled with lights. From his luxurious vantage point, everything seemed perfect. Everything, that is, except for the hollow emptiness inside him. He had it all: money, power, fame. But still, he felt an aching loneliness that no amount of wealth could fill. He had spent years building his empire. His name was known in every boardroom, every investor meeting, every high society gala. But he couldn't shake the feeling that people didn't know the real him. How could they? They only saw the image he had carefully crafted, the successful, charming billionaire who had everything under control. But behind the polished exterior, there was something much deeper, a man who longed for something real. A few days ago, Alex had been at yet another lavish gala, surrounded by fake smiles and fake friends. It was then that he realized he was nothing more than a commodity. His wealth made him desirable, but not for who he truly was. Women flirted with him not because they were interested in him, but because they wanted a slice of his fortune. He sat down on the leather couch, a glass of whiskey in hand, swirling the amber liquid absent-mindedly. Was it too much to ask for someone who loved him for himself, not for his bank account? Someone who wasn't interested in his money, but in his heart? The thought gnawed at him. He could buy anything: cars, houses, vacations, even friendships. But love? No, that was something he couldn't purchase. It was something he had to find. A shiver ran down his spine as he thought about his last serious relationship. She had been everything he had dreamed of, or so he thought, until the day she had left him, saying it was because she couldn't handle the pressure of being with someone so rich. Alex had suspected that wasn't the real reason. She had never really cared about him. She had cared about his wealth. It hurt more than he was willing to admit. He sighed, setting the glass down on the table. The room felt suffocating now, the silence pressing in on him. Maybe it was time for a change. He needed to know if anyone would care for him, the real him. Not the millionaire Alex, but just Alex. But how could he find that? How could he test the sincerity of someone's affection? An idea began to form in his mind. A crazy, unorthodox idea. What if he could hide who he was? What if he could disguise himself as someone else, someone who wasn't rich, and see if someone would still care for him? It wasn't perfect, but it was worth a shot. He would leave the luxury, the fame, and all the trappings of his wealth behind. He would become a different person, and in doing so, he would find out if love was possible without the faked. It was a risk, a dangerous one. But what did he have to lose? He'd already lost his trust in people. He had to try. Maybe, just maybe, he would find the love he'd been searching for. With newfound resolve, Alex stood up, walked to the closet, and began to pull out clothes that no billionaire would ever wear. He would become a beggar, and, for the first time in years, he would live without the expectation of money, power, or status. He would live simply, without pretense. The next morning, Alex was standing in front of a mirror, looking at the stranger who stared back at him. His once neatly groomed face was now unshaven, and his sharp suit had been replaced with ragged clothes. His eyes, usually sharp and commanding, now looked tired and worn, as if the weight of the world had suddenly come crashing down on him. He examined his new appearance: a torn jacket, faded jeans, and old sneakers. The look of someone who had been forgotten by the world. A beggar, a man who had nothing to his name but the clothes on his back. And yet, Alex felt a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't weighed down by expectations or superficiality. It was just him, standing in a world that didn't know who he was or who he used to be. Taking a deep breath, he adjusted the worn-out jacket, pulled a cap down low over his head to hide his face, and stepped out of his penthouse for the last time. As the elevator descended, he wondered if anyone would even recognize him. But then again, that was the point, wasn't it? He didn't want to be recognized. He wanted to be invisible. The city felt different as Alex walked through the bustling streets. The towering skyscrapers that usually gave him a sense of power now loomed over him, like indifferent giants. People passed him by, oblivious to his presence. His heart raced. This was it, the beginning of his experiment. Alex spent the day wandering the city, sitting on street corners, and begging for spare change. It felt degrading, humiliating, even. Every time someone passed by without a second glance, he felt a wave of frustration. But it wasn't about the money, it was about the test. Would anyone stop? Would anyone care enough to help him, or was he just another invisible figure on the street? Hours passed, and as the sun began to set, Alex sat on a bench in a quiet park, staring at the ground. His legs were sore from walking, his body ached from sitting on hard concrete, but it was the loneliness that hurt the most. For the first time, he truly understood what it felt like to be invisible, to be a nobody. Just as he was about to give up, a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Hey, are you okay?" Alex looked up, surprised. A woman stood in front of him, her expression kind and genuine. She was dressed in a simple dress, with soft curls framing her face. She didn't look like someone who would typically be in this part of the city. Her eyes were filled with concern, not judgment. "I'm fine," Alex replied, trying to mask his surprise. "Just a little tired." The woman smiled, her warmth immediately putting him at ease. She crouched down beside him, her presence calm and reassuring. "Here," she said, offering him a sandwich wrapped in foil. "I thought you might be hungry. I know it's not much, but it's something." Alex stared at the sandwich for a moment, feeling an unexpected swell of emotion. He had been given money before, even offered jobs, but this was different. This wasn't charity, this was kindness. She wasn't treating him like a beggar. She saw him as a person, someone worthy of compassion. As Alex watched Isabella walk away, a wave of realization hit him. This was what he had been looking for. Someone who saw beyond the surface. Someone who didn't care about his money, his status, or his past. For the first time in years, Alex felt a spark of hope. Maybe this experiment wasn't just about discovering who would love him for his true self. Maybe it was about finding someone who could change his life in a way he never expected. The question remained, could he keep up the ruse? Could he keep pretending to be someone else, even as he grew closer to Isabella? The road ahead would be complicated, filled with lies and secrets, but Alex knew one thing for sure. He was willing to take the risk. Days passed, and Alex found himself unable to stop thinking about Isabella. Every time he wandered the streets, looking for a moment to connect with her again, he felt a growing anticipation. He had grown used to the silence of his penthouse, the loneliness that came with being the most powerful man in the room. But when he was with Isabella, it was different. She made him feel like he mattered. And so, every day, he returned to that park bench, hoping she would show up again. For the next few days, his routine became a mixture of hope and frustration. Sometimes, he would arrive early, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but she never appeared. Other times, he would come late, only to see the spot empty. Just when he was beginning to lose hope, the familiar sound of footsteps broke his thoughts. He looked up, and there she was, Isabella, walking towards him, a smile as radiant as ever. "Hey, Alex," she greeted him warmly, as if it had only been yesterday since they last spoke. "I thought I'd find you here. I thought money would solve everything," he confessed one evening as they sat on a park bench, watching the sunset. "But all it did was make people want something from me." Isabella nodded, her expression softening. "I know the feeling. I've had people pretend to care about me, but they only want what they think I can give them. Alex's breath caught in his chest. He hadn't expected her to say that. In that moment, he realized they had more in common than he could have imagined. Isabella wasn't just a woman who was kind to him because of his misfortune. She understood him. She understood the weight of living a life where everyone's intentions were questionable. "I get it," he said quietly. "It's hard to trust anyone." Isabella smiled, her eyes sparkling in the fading light. "That's why I've been living this way, too." Alex blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath before continuing. "I'm not who you think I am. I haven't been completely honest with you, Alex." His heart skipped a beat as she spoke. Was she about to tell him she was married? Or maybe she was a scam artist, out to use him for something? He tried to push the thoughts away, but a sense of dread crept over him. "I've been living in disguise," Isabella said, her voice steady but filled with vulnerability. "I come from a wealthy family, but I've been pretending to be poor because I don't want people to care about my money. I don't want to be just another rich girl to someone who's after my wealth." Alex felt the ground shift beneath him. He had been so consumed with his own secret that he hadn't even considered she might be hiding something, too. Isabella wasn't a poor woman looking for charity. She was a billionaire's daughter, doing the same thing he had been, pretending to be someone she wasn't to see if someone would love her for who she truly was. Alex didn't know what to say. The truth hung in the air like a heavy fog. All of this time, he had been deceiving her, and now, she had been deceiving him. His heart pounded in his chest, the weight of their secrets crushing him. But as he looked at her, he saw no malice in her eyes. No trickery, no lies. Just a woman who had been trying to find love in the same way he had. "Isabella, he began, but she stopped him with a gentle touch. "It's okay, Alex," she said softly. "I didn't want to tell you. I was scared, just like you. I didn't want to risk losing what we have, even if it's built on a lie." The vulnerability in her words broke something inside of him. He realized that they had both been running from the same thing, the fear of being loved for the wrong reasons. The fear of never finding someone who cared for them without the weight of their fortunes hanging over their heads. "I never wanted to hurt you," he whispered. "I've been lying to you, pretending to be someone I'm not." She smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. "You didn't hurt me, Alex. I think we both needed to find out who we really are, without the masks." Alex let out a long breath, the tension in his chest easing. For the first time since this journey had begun, he felt a sense of relief. The weight of his secret was finally shared, and in that moment, he realized that this was the start of something real. They both had faced the truth, and they could either walk away or choose to accept each other as they were. But just as Alex thought they had reached a breakthrough, Isabella stood up, her face clouded with doubt. Alex spent days organizing every detail, making sure that everything would be perfect. He even made arrangements to have their entire story, their meeting, their struggles, their journey together, shared with the world. This wedding would not just be a celebration of their love, it would be the culmination of everything they had been through, the proof that love could overcome all the lies. The day of the wedding arrived, and the venue was nothing short of breathtaking. The ballroom was adorned with flowers, the lighting was perfect, and the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Alex stood at the altar, his heart pounding in his chest. Every eye in the room was on him, but all he could think about was Isabella. Where was she? Would she show up? As the doors to the ballroom swung open, Alex's breath caught in his throat. There she was, Isabella. But she wasn't just the woman he had met on the streets. She was dressed in a stunning white gown, her beauty radiating in the soft glow of the chandeliers. She was more magnificent than he had ever imagined. She stepped forward, her gaze meeting his, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade away. The guests, the wedding planners, the photographers, none of them mattered. It was just Alex and Isabella. When she reached the altar, Alex took her hands in his heart racing with emotion. He was no longer hiding who he was. He was no longer pretending to be someone else. This was the real him, standing in front of the woman he loved. I've spent my whole life building walls around myself, Alex began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Walls made of money, of power, of success. I thought those things would protect me, but all they did was make me feel more alone. And then I met you, Isabella. You showed me what it means to love without conditions, without pretenses. Isabella's eyes filled with tears as she squeezed his hands. Alex, I've been so afraid. I've spent so much of my life pretending to be something I'm not, hiding from the truth, because I was scared of being hurt again. But you showed me what it means to be loved for who I really am. Alex smiled, his heart swelling with love. I love you, Isabella, not for your wealth or your status, but for your heart, for the way you see me, not as a billionaire, but as a man who's searching for something real. And I'll spend the rest of my life showing you that my love for you is true. With those words, Alex and Isabella exchanged vows not just to each other, but to the truth they had finally embraced. The grand wedding was more than just a spectacle. It was a symbol of their journey together, a testament to the love they had found despite the lies, despite the secrets. As they exchanged rings, the entire ballroom erupted in applause, but all Alex could focus on was Isabella, standing beside him, her smile radiant and her love genuine. The reception that followed was just as breathtaking. The grand chandelier shimmered as they danced, the soft music setting the tone for a night that felt like a fairy tale come true. For once, Alex didn't feel the weight of his fortune. He didn't feel the need to impress anyone. All that mattered was Isabella, and the life they were about to build together. As the wedding celebrations continued into the night, Alex and Isabella sneaked away to a quiet balcony, where they could finally be alone. The city lights twinkled below, and the cool night air wrapped around them as they stood together, hand in hand. We did it, Isabella whispered, her head resting on Alex's shoulder. We did, Alex agreed, a smile tugging at his lips. I never thought this day would come, but here we are, and I couldn't be happier. In that moment, Alex realized that love wasn't about pretending to be someone you weren't. It wasn't about the wealth or the status or the fake it. It was about being honest with yourself and with the person you love. It was about finding someone who would love you for who you truly were, not for what you had to offer. And as they stood there, surrounded by the city that had witnessed their journey, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. Their love story was no longer a fairy tale. It was their reality, and it was perfect. Kindly like, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more episodes.